My name is Monica Tan. I'm an author, an environmentalist, I'm a teacher, and I was recently the Greens candidate for Barara in the federal election.
So you stood for politics. Why?
For me, it's about giving back to my community and giving back to my country. And over time, I've realised just what it means to be Australian. And with those rights also comes responsibilities.
How do you think your ethnicity has helped or hindered you in your career to date?
Yeah, I think it's pretty hard to actually say that in a very concrete way. I think it's hard to sort of have a checklist where you go, yeah, well, it helped me here or hindered me there. I think that it's definitely complicated. So being a Chinese Australian, I didn't have a lot of role models growing up. So I never really saw myself not only not being in politics, but I didn't really connect to the culture of politics. It seemed very alienating to me. It didn't look like me, it didn't sound like me, it didn't have people who I could relate to. So I never took much interest in it. It was actually through the issues that I ended up joining the Greens. I cared about marriage equality, I cared about the environment and climate change. And I saw that the Greens were sort of doing a lot of work on that. So that's how I got in. It wasn't through the game of politics. I was never a career politician, which is definitely true still today. But I think that it's a shame that that was the case. It was a shame that I, never saw myself doing that because of the lack of racial diversity and the lack of gender diversity in politics.
So do you see that lack of role models is at least partly responsible for the lack of Asian Australians that we see in leadership positions?
Yeah, so I guess when I say that, it's not just it's not just the fact that the establishment might not accept us, it's that we don't necessarily put our hands up as well. There are less of us who put our hands up, I would say proportionally, than people who might be of a European background. At the same time, I do think that being Chinese Australian may help us connect to certain communities that wouldn't otherwise have connections to, but even that's a bit complicated because sometimes I wonder if those communities themselves are used to having a European person in Parliament, may feel safer, and they may feel it's more, they feel like they're in safer hands with someone who looks like other politicians. They may vote against someone of Chinese extraction or a female candidate because they have this subconscious feeling, well, they don't look like a politician. They don't look like what a politician is meant to look like. I don't look like a politician. I don't talk like a politician because politicians don't have enough people like me. And I'm not going to change myself into something I'm not. I'm going to be proud of who I am and hopefully change, the dynamic or the look or the language or the culture of politics.
You'd still argue discrimination is alive and well?
I think it's a mixture of discrimination and stereotyping, which has a slightly different emphasis. So I think that in time I earn people's respect, but when they first see me, they may write me off and they may think, well, she's not a powerful person, she's not a player, she's not someone I need to know, she's not someone who's going anywhere, she's the secretary, she's the I had this very famous author who I met at a party. His first question was, which part of China do you come from? Not, which sort of made me feel like an outsider. And it didn't make me feel like I was there as an author, just as he was. I'm there I'm someone who's part of the industry. And I want to be sort of regarded as that first at this sort of setting.
How do you change that? What sort of work needs to be done? You see change coming from Asian Australians working together to support each other. That will be the source of change.
Yeah, and having solidarity with other groups. So I really care about the status of Indigenous Australia in our country. Now that may not seem important, but that's what I mean. It's about working together, working with other marginalised groups. I really cared about marriage equality. I really care about the environment. It's working with with all the different kinds of people out there who have no power, then we lift each other up. So it's not an extractive relationship. It's not I'll scratch your back, you'll scratch mine. It's about realizing that the many can be powerful if we work together.